Book 2, Guidebook to the Christ Within. Chapter 5. What is Christ consciousness? Knowing that embodiment of the Christ is possible, I ask Jesus, what is the full manifestation of Christ consciousness?
The Christ self is indwelling and eternal, as it exists in manifest expression through the living human form, not only as a human being, but also as a God incarnate. The potential to embody the Christ lies in all incarnated humans. The Christ self is one who has allowed the truth of what is to express itself fully, without interference or distortion, on the level of the human.
So the Christ self is quite simply one who thinks, speaks, and acts from within the oneness of everything, one who knows the unity of all, and doesn't let human perspectives and imperfections interfere with or distort this vision. When we are our finest selves, we are the Christ. This can manifest in the smallest act, such as preparing a simple meal, or in the grand heroic act of one who risks her own life to rescue a stranger's. The thread that runs through any act done as the Christ is its genesis from within the unity and love of all. The Christ self manifests as the cook, as Christ has a joyful reverence for the foods as they are prepared and shared, and as the rescuer, Christ values the life of another as much as the other values his own. So the truth of what is that Jesus speaks of in his definition is the reality that there is just one divine process in this world, and we are all a part of it. The plants, the animals, the very earth herself, the space between us, the stars, the moon, the galaxies that exist beyond our sight, are all only perceived as many. In seeing others as yourself, your self's boundary is burst open, and your heart connects to all that it sees. The realization that we affect those around us, and that they affect us, all of a sudden requires us to be responsible to a much greater world. Seeing all as one changes everything. I find that the simple awareness of this connection to and love of all things changes how I feel in any moment of my life. Walking in a crowd of people and focusing on what is the same within us can make me relax and smile. I feel completely different about myself and everyone else. Several years ago, I was sitting on a bench in the middle of the woods, just looking at the trees. In an instant, the trees changed from being things that were outside of myself to being my friends. I saw each of them as individuals. It completely changed being in the woods. I think many of us fear the woods because we hold the memory of the danger that hid within them for our ancestors. All vestiges of that fear dropped from me in that moment, as the trees became my family of protectors instead. Perhaps you can see how seeing all as one changes everything. The difficulty lies in allowing this truth of our divine light and love to express itself without interference or distortion. Most of us cannot see this truth of our unity, and understandably, because it is not visible to our naked eyes. Add to that fact that our minds are busy, our bodies are tense, and there have been a gazillion generations of humans on earth living in the same blindness. One thing that can support us in turning our focus inward to discover the Christ within us is when we become still of mind, relax our bodies, and enter a state of allowing. Then we can make space for the God within us to manifest through us. Just knowing that this magnificence of divine Christ light is within us can allow us to free it from its jail. It doesn't have to take great time and effort, although it may, to free the divinity within us to express itself through our lives, bodies, and hearts. Even now we can recognize that the Christ self has been here all along. Perhaps when we speak a truth we didn't even know we knew. That is the Christ within us using our voices. Or the Christ may be active through us when we feel no limits to what is possible for ourselves or others, when we humbly feel like God incarnate. Humility is a key to action as the Christ, for that action comes from the knowing that I am but a part of something magnificent and beyond comprehension. The Christ may be acting through us when we move outside of our comfort zones and speak a hard but necessary truth. Or maybe the Christ is acting through us when we reach out to a stranger to make a loving connection beyond the bounds of social norm. My friend Avis inspired me with her story of how she responded to beggars when she and her family lived in London. Knowing the men asking for money might spend it on liquor, she instead invited them to eat with her children and herself at a restaurant. The men would sit with them or at another table, whatever they wanted to do. She could see her unity with them and open-heartedly was willing to act on it, way outside the normal social boundaries. This is Christ in action. Having the definition of Christ consciousness, the next question might be, what must one do to get there? Here's the conversation that Jesus and I had about this.
The first and only step is the intention to be one with all life, all things seen and unseen. From this vantage point, all actions, all thoughts, and all intentions are of the Christ consciousness. When the Christed self evolves, there is a difference, however, as it evolves into a true embodiment. I believe this is what you are asking for, as are many others.
How?
Focus on the realization that all is one, and whatever action you take must be action that serves the one in the largest sense. Your focus must be singularly held on the unity of all that is, as often as you are capable. Not only will this change your way of being in the world, but also it will ease the way for all of those around you as well. You will still do the things you do, but you will simultaneously know that you are connected to all, and therefore that your actions are responsible to the whole in a new way.
Jesus later added,
Seeing the one, all that is, around one at all times is the simplest and most easily performed task that most people can practice. It can be done any time, any place, anywhere, without anyone knowing it is being done. And it has profound effects on the nervous systems, both sympathetic and parasympathetic, and the systems that connect one to the higher dimensions. All barriers between the worlds are blasted apart when this frame of reference is used to see out from human eyes.
So a new Christ intends to be one with all of life, and a true Christ takes action that serves the one in the largest sense, because she feels responsible to the whole. Stop reading for a moment and shift your perspective to see everything in front of you as all one thing. Join everything together and imagine the space between things as a thing as well. When I stop writing and shift to see that the wall, the table, and the map on the wall are all a part of the same thing, I see that they are all one thing. And I say to Jesus, when I did that, everything came alive, conscious, and my body relaxed, and I find myself loving what I am looking at. Am I relaxed because I'm in resonance with the things I see as the one?
No, you are not in resonance. You are connecting with them in a way that offers an opening to energy within your body system. You are in a working relationship with the earth when this occurs. You join a team made up of the universe, the earth, life forms, and other forms, and exchange with them in a way that eases you. It brings the universe's wholeness to you, and so you find yourself feeling whole.
Is this because I stopped putting energy into being separate as well?
Not exactly. There is simply a union that occurs when you are looking at all that is as a part of yourself, and that union taps into a deep well of that who you truly are-ness that you don't normally feel. It is within you and available all the time. It is a contrast because you have not known to go there before.
As I embody the one, I feel more whole, not just in my perspective, but in my body and emotions too. New possibilities become available. An intimate experience of oneness. I was blessed to experience the world's oneness during a guided meditation by Sadhguru Jaggi Vasudev. I rose, and my first step on the earth was a shock, because I knew the earth was alive. I couldn't walk normally, because I felt so in love with the earth beneath my feet. I walked slowly, each foot placed lightly, gently, and painstakingly, as if I were walking on the face of something I loved completely and couldn't bear to harm. The tears poured down my face as my love for the earth moved through my body. It probably took me 30 minutes to walk about 60 steps. I had no reference for time. As people walked around me to the door of the meditation hall, I felt deep remorse for having walked like them, clomping along, unaware of the miracle beneath my feet. I was sensing that my body was a part of the earth herself. I reached and navigated the door at my snail's pace and saw the people, grass, and trees from a distance. They were all one thing. I knew them and myself as literally one thing. It is so easy to forget that we are already the Christ. We don't need to acquire it. We are all the divine process in living form. In order to make the Christ within a real experience in our lives, we must let go of our idea of separation and of all the toys, costumes, masks, and tools that we have collected thus far that help us remain separate and that we imagine keep us safe. What remains is the truth of who we really are. God, incarnated as a human, open-hearted, and connected to everything else that is. When we see the world as one, we have the energy of a nuclear reactor within us, while as separate individuals, we sputter along on a generator as our only power source. The veil of forgetfulness. My intention to embody the Christ is something that excites and inspires me, yet I forget constantly. I realized that it wasn't just that I personally was forgetful, Forgetfulness is the human condition. One of the terms, if you will, for incarnating in a human body is that we forget that we are one. Our journey on earth is to remember who we really are in the body. And when we remember and see all as one, this knowledge feels like it would be impossible to forget because it's so amazing. And yet we forget again and again. In seeing all as one, we are lifting the veil of forgetfulness. The veil is like an incredibly heavy theater curtain with thick layers of fabric and weights at the bottom. A huge curtain that separates us as humans from the truth that we are one. So we needn't chastise ourselves for forgetting that we are one, because it's not that we are imperfect in our ability. It's rather that it is challenging to go against the very rules of human birth. In order to play the game of appearing separate, we needed that curtain. When we see all as one, we are lifting the curtain up. We expect ourselves to be able to hold it up all the time, but it's almost impossible. And even more so when we try to lift the veil alone. So as more of us remember our unity, we raise the curtain together, and the brilliant light beyond the veil shines out. If we share the job of lifting the veil together, we can remember our unity for longer periods of time, and more light and unconditional love will enter our world, reminding us that we are more than just human. We are the embodiment of God, come to earth as creators.